Jake, Ethan, Raul, welcome to the Game Informer Show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
It's an honor to have you. All right, Jake, you're the easiest. You're the one on the right for us. What's your title? Where are you at?
My title is Senior Vice President of Virtual Reality at Sony Pictures Entertainment. So basically, I oversee all the immersive entertainment and virtual reality business for the Sony Pictures Movie Studio Group.
That is such a bizarre role.
I'm here in lovely Culver City, Los Angeles, on the movie studio lot.
So you're the one, when a new movie's coming out, they say, hey, Jake, we got a new Groundhog, or we got a Spider-Man Homecoming, for example, because you worked on that VR thing, right? It's like, what can you do in VR? And then you just brainstorm and find different VR teams to contract out?
Yeah, well, I'd like to sort of present it as it's a little bit of the reverse. We say, what movies do we have coming out in our theatrical schedule? What IP do we have in our catalog? And then potentially down the line, what's an original idea that we could bring in through immersive, through VR, that the Flatties group, the lovely theatrical group, or the TV group could maybe turn into something that works in their world too. So it's really a collaboration of things that the movie studio is working on, like Spider-Man Far From Home, our next Spider-Man movie, or our incredible catalog, our library of Columbia and Screen Gems, Groundhog Day, or maybe even an original idea that could be told as a new story in this crazy format.
Gotcha. Okay. From Tequila Works, we have Raul Rubio over there.
Hi there.
Hey.
Yeah, my title is not as fancy as Jake's. I make games. So, yeah.
That's great. All right, you're a game person. You're a point of reference. None of this Hollywood nonsense. You're the one we're really going to connect to, Raul. No offense to you guys. Hollywood seems great. We also have Ethan Stearns from MWM Immersive.
Yeah. So I'm an executive producer over at MWM, and I run our division that's focused on making interactive. And we have a deep love for kind of, these new up-and-coming interactive platforms like VR and AR, and so that's been a focus of ours.
And so you worked on that Gnomes and Goblins VR experience with Jon Favreau?
We're working on with a great developer Weaver and Jon Favreau on Gnomes and Goblins, which hopefully we'll have announcements about soon.
Okay, very exciting. Okay, I'm very happy that I assembled all you guys here because I need to know the Groundhog Day VR game. How does this exist? It's something that should not exist. I assume you saw the reaction of everybody saying, "What the f is going on?" So please, what the f is going on? How did this happen?
Exactly, that was exactly the response we wanted, actually. I think when we were looking at the title initially, we were excited for the world to say, what and why would they make this? But then be intrigued because they see the great team at Tequila Works being part of the project and knowing their past types of projects they had done. And I think when you sit back and you think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense as a video game because the narrative mechanic for the film is really like a gameplay mechanic. And we really leaned into that idea in order to sort of put narrative at the center of a game.
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast even before. Like, why don't they make a Groundhog Day game? Then it's like, well, in a way, every video game is already a Groundhog Day game. It kind of gets the beats out there. But I like that you guys are just going right for it. Okay, so how does it happen? Jake, I take it starts with you?
Well, it certainly starts with us from an IP standpoint, but it really was a conversation that we had with Madison Wells very, very early on. We've been partners with Madison Wells in this immersive space for a while, and it was really a question of where is there an IP that this platform could highlight uniquely, right? So the idea of immersive in and of itself, it's one thing to make a game for traditional PC and console platforms. It's a fairly, I would say, mature business and platform in many ways, but because VR specifically is so new and the idea of immersive storytelling is so new, we actually wanted to try something different. And Groundhog Day, because of the core mechanic of the story being this time loop, repetitive kind of cycle, was sort of the thing that we said, well, that actually works as a game mechanic, but the narrative side of it, the story side of it, was something that was unique and different, and we could plug into this new platform. So it started off with an early conversation of identifying an IP in our catalog that we were interested in. Ethan was a big fan of it, and the team at Madison Wells was a huge fan of it from the beginning because, frankly, it's all about trying to lean into story while having really fun game mechanics tied in.
Yeah.
And then it became, all right, who's the best developer to work on this?
Right.
And then it's Tequila Works.
Absolutely.
No, they were the second choice, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other available. But the thing is, again, if you have been following our games since Ryan or Sexy Brutal, etc., we have always been interested in how to develop narrative in this interactive medium. The thing is, literally, Sexy Brutal, it was a co-production with Cavalier Games Studios. It was defined as Groundhog Day meets, well, then there were none, right? Because it was a murder mystery. And Ethan was our mentor for a GDC talk that basically we did, explaining how the concept of a spherical narrative, how these series of stories where in Invisible Hours we didn't have a time loop, but we have rifting. We allow you to repeat scenes and literally explore different ways on how to perceive the story, right? So we had this conversation and they were like, oh, wait, well, remember me? Well, I was like, how can I forget you? But it's like, well, don't you think that Groundhog Day, in a sense, is like being trapped in a video game? It was like, yes, of course. Yeah, every time you die, you repeat. I mean, yeah, of course. It's like, how would you feel working on Groundhog Day? And I remember the answer was something like, yeah, of course. But you only do original IPs, right? It's like, yeah, but it's f***ing Groundhog Day. Who is not a fan of Groundhog Day? And in a sense, I don't know who were the other guys, but there
were no other guys.
But the thing is, we got a lot of good experience with Invisible Hours and Sexy Brutal. So in a sense, it was a natural fit on how to develop the next step in this spherical narrative thing. Because in Invisible Hours, I mean, to be honest, it was more like a voyeur simulator. You could not alter anything in the story. You were just a silent ghost.
It's just an immersive theater experience, yeah.
Yeah, and then we noticed that people on VR, especially, well, when it started, people tend to be disruptive, which is the polite way of saying assholes, because they love just throwing stuff around, and that's how it works, right? And we said, okay, so being a disruptive element in the story is that maybe I'm talking to Ned Ryerson, and I start punching his face, and that's going to be fun. But more importantly, what are the ramifications of that? How that's going to affect the story? How is going to affect my perception of what's going on when I'm the only one who is aware that we are all trapped in a time loop, and for them it's just one day, and at the end of the day we'll be raised. But for Phil Connors Jr., for the player, both of them are aware that they are trapped there, and that would be a huge change and basically a huge addition to this VR experience.
Yeah.
Which is, well, our main character is not silent. Basically, Phil Connors Jr. is enduring and suffering this emotional journey with the player, right? And that was a great opportunity to write something deeper. So it's not just throwing shit around, which is fun, but also something else. And yeah, that opens a lot of possibilities for narrative structures, pretty complex.
Just want to add to that a little bit, though. I think like the other thing that, outside of just the idea that there's this loop mechanic, I think the other thing is when we looked at Groundhog Day and what is Groundhog Day really about, it's about this character's evolution from being, you know, a piece of shit to turning into someone who really cares about the world around him and the people around him. And we thought that maybe, although that is a little bit more heartfelt than when we necessarily wanted to directly go against, there's something fun about playing with that idea, the evolution of a player and how a player goes through a game and learns new things, and solves puzzles and becomes more aware of their world. As someone once referred to it, I don't know if you've ever talked about this, like kind of Metroidvania in a way of like learning new things down the road that you can then reapply to parts of your life. And so the deeper into the narrative we got, the more we felt like it translated to game design in a really great way.
Yeah, the social Metroidvania, the moral min-max. Yeah.
In the sense that literally the puzzles are the stories, and the stories behind the characters. So it's true that, well, in a philosophical level, the more you know others, the more you know yourself. On a gameplay level, that means that, yeah, the more you know those people and the more you know their deepest secrets, the best you are prepared to actually change the outcome events that are going to unfold around the day.
Absolutely. I want to get into all that game design stuff. I'm still a little bit just fascinated by this idea of Ethan and Jake going through the possible candidates.
Let me tell you this story. It's a great story.
Please.
So I showed up, and my company and Jake had been already sort of working on a couple projects together. I jumped into the mix and was starting to talk to Jake. I was like, I really want to do something different. And Jake wanted to do something different as well, and had already sort of started down this path and talking with his partners at PlayStation about things that they wanted to try to do with the platform. And Jake I had a list of like all of these different IPs from within Sony and I think I worked for a studio a while ago called Brash Entertainment that did a lot of like licensed title products. I work for film studios that do a lot of all their businesses around licensing in games. And there's always this problem of like, how do you take an IP that works in a film format, and then how do you match that into an interactive space organically? And so when you look at this big list of all these amazing IPs that Sony produces, although they jump off the page as fantastic memories we have about them as cinema, they don't. It's like, oh, and then we'll make that a match game, or we'll make that, it'll just be like a shooter hallway.
Right.
And I think that Jake and I were really excited to try to push something forward that could take advantage of the medium of VR, and also be challenging in how narrative operates in interactive, because that's the thing that I think on the cinema side, on the filmmaking side, what those groups are so interested in interactive and in VR. And we really saw that opportunity to use Groundhog Day to sort of bridge the gap in between really amazing game design and strong narrative and strong storytelling.
It is just literally you leafing through the catalog of Sony movies and being like, well, Groundhog Day, of course that would make sense, but there's probably something stopping us from using that license, right?
Well, there is a process that we have here, and
process.
There's a little bit of a process, but you know, we went to the key stakeholders. I sat in a room and kind of went through it with our key stakeholders, and everybody kind of came around to the idea of, all right, wait a sec, that's nuts, but that might actually work. And I think one of the proof points for us was the fact that Sony had actually taken Groundhog Day and turned it into a musical on Broadway. And so when you look at an IP that has moved across formats, that was, to me, a currency that we had to be able to say, look, this is something that has existed in one format for a long time. It's beloved. It's moved to another format. And by the way, a live show is probably as close to an analogy to what VR could be, narrative VR with game mechanics, as we have out there. So there was a proof point out there that I think helped grease the skids, if you will, with the internal process. And then it was just the enthusiasm with our partners at Madison Wells and a little bit of internal enthusiasm that got it to the point. And I think the other piece of it in the pitch was we weren't trying to retell the story. The exact story of the 1993 film is it's precious in many ways.
Perfect, yeah.
But what we need to do is modernize it. We need to move the story forward 25 plus years. We need to tell the story of the next generation. We need to stay within the familiar, iconic components of Punxsutawney and Gobbler's Knob and the diner and the characters that you love. But we want to move it forward. And that's something that was really important to us as a movie studio, and I think in this creative process, to tell a new story so that new audiences could love it and the nostalgia factor would still be there.
Yeah, so the people you have to talk to make this happen, I mean, Harold Ramis obviously has passed, the writer and director. Did you reach out to like the original screenwriter, Danny Rubin, I think is his name?
We did. We actually spent a lot of time very early on with Danny talking through this process and understanding really what was core about his original script and what mattered to him and what was important. And that was a really in-depth process. We spent a lot of time with a bunch of folks who were incredible consultants on this project. Joshua Rubin, who had a background at Telltale and was able to really sit with us and work with Danny. No relation, So they say, but I just can't buy that. How they're both named Ruben and not be related somehow. Anyway.
Did you learn anything? Yeah, as like big Groundhog Day fans, when you're talking to Danny Rubin, did you have any insight of like, oh, I never understood this aspect of Groundhog Day? Because I remember, I think it was an interview I read a while ago with Rubin where he said that like, oh yeah, Phil Connors was in that for like 10,000 years. Like, I know we only saw select discs. Did you have any epiphanies like that where it's like, what? This is a new perspective on Groundhog Day?
Well, go ahead, Raul. I know we asked a lot of questions. We asked all the fanboy questions that we wanted to ask.
So the thing is, with Mr. Rubin, we talk about philosophy and the Buddhist aspects of Groundhog Day and what are the implications of, what happens when you are so diluted. And this is something Phil Connors said in the movie. I have died so many times, I'm not even a human. I'm not alive, right? So what happens when basically everything you were is diluted and is reborn out of helplessness in this limbo or purgatory? So suddenly you start realizing that it's not about you anymore, and you don't have any motivation or any goal of helping others, but you do it just because by making their lives and that day better for them, actually you are feeling good by doing that. So obviously there were a lot of ramifications, and actually we discovered the very, very obscure Italian version of Groundhog Day, which Danny Rubin helped with the script. That's something you should Google. And the thing is, Joshua spent a lot of time. In fact, there is a relationship between Danny Rubin and Joshua Rubin, is because Joshua's father was a friend of Danny Rubin. Actually, they were neighbors.
Oh, okay.
It's a very small world for the
okay, there you go.
There we go. Any other good deep cuts you guys got from talking to him?
Yeah. And the thing is, the more we thought about it is, imagine that you are Phil Connors. You spend literally millennia in the single day. For you, this is your universe. This is the only thing you have known for many lives. So suddenly you are out of the loop, and you are an enlightened person. You are literally the Buddha of Punxsutawney.
Interesting.
You are the perfect example of how a human being can aspire to be. And then, Rita, you love each other, you have children. But those children are not aware, no one is aware of your epiphany, your existential journey. The thing is that for Rita, you are just one guy that was one asshole, and now you are great. And for your children, that must be the worst experience ever, because you are going to grow up on the shadow of the perfect man. So imagine starting, I don't know, Papa, can you help me to ride the bike? He's like, he's I don't know. He's I was going. I don't know. I don't know any famous rider. Sorry. Tony Hawk. I don't know.
Tony Hawk. Yeah,
Tony Hawk. So he's the Tony Hawk. Papa, I want to play piano, and he's playing with the London Philharmonic Orchestra or something.
Right.
Papa, I don't know. I got some injury here, and he's a neurosurgeon. So basically, everything you try, you are going to fail. You are going to drop off, because he is literally perfect, because he could spend thousands of years doing that, perfecting everything he tried.
So the kids have a lot of resentment towards their father throughout this game.
Yeah. So maybe you are the perfect human, but maybe you are not the perfect father, because there's something that you were never ready for, right? And that's why we chose to tell Phil Jr.'s story, not Phil Sr.'s story.
Right.
Because Phil Sr. is an amazing kind of person. He's loved by everyone in this little universe of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. He's God. But that doesn't mean that for Phil Jr. that should be a good example. In fact, he has a lot of daddy issues, and that for him, Punxsutawney is the worst place on earth. He ran away to Pittsburgh. You can imagine how he feels that. And he doesn't want to know anything about any of the inhabitants of Punxsutawney, Nev Ryerson, for example. He's still going to go Bing after 30 years.
Okay.
And what they do see. So basically that's the starting point on, you know what? This person is literally what a young Phil Connors was, with no knowledge or realization of what it feels to be here, right? And suddenly we are going to put you in the shoes of your father in the same situation, so maybe you get some perspective Yeah, as Ethan said, maybe you can become selfless.
Do you
but realizing that it's not about you anymore?
Yeah. So at some point he realizes that his dad was stuck in a loop, and then he gets stuck in a loop. How do you set up the loop for the son? Is it just whatever? He's selfish, so it triggers.
That's quite a spoilery, but I can tell you that the thing is, we play with the idea that if you were Phil Connors, how can you prove you were trapped in a time loop? There's no physical proof. Anything you did is gone because it never happened. For everyone else, it never happened, right? So we have this lore where Phil Connors actually create some kind of fables on how to explain the concept of time and life and death and, well, community to his children, even Rita. But for all of them, those were just metaphors because, again, now Phil Connors is a philosopher. So when you really literally are in the same situation, you are in denial because it's like, no, this cannot be happening. And you slowly realize that, hey, maybe this story is my father told me, maybe it was something literal. No, that's impossible. How can you explain that, right? And that's basically a starting point on how to transfer that first steps in VR of, this is going fun and physical into something that, hey, actually we can have several layers of narrative here that is up to the player to explore and discover. Yeah. And that's how you build the story.
Did you all consider different settings other than going back to the same location and getting away from the family? Did you think about just, well, Groundhog Day, it's universal. You could set it anywhere in the world starring anybody. Why make it the sun? It feels like, no insult to your industry, but it feels a little bit like the Hollywood cliche. Like, well, it's a sequel. I don't know. It's the sun. It's Son of the Mask here. Here we go. Like, did you have discussions, and what led to that choice?
I mean, I think when we talk about working with the IP but then telling a new story, we definitely want to keep certain iconic components of it that are part of the tone, are part of the nostalgia, that sort of bring back the reasons why you kind of loved the original story. And I think that this falls into the challenge of how do you tell something new? How do you tell sort of evolved story, but then also pay correct homage to what the source content was?
Right. Yeah.
One of the analogies from
I think Phil Connors was into something when he tried to kill the Punxsutawney Phil. I think the Groundhog is behind everything.
Oh, interesting.
But I must say that in this story, it's not Groundhog Day. It's the day before Groundhog Day.
Not too much spoilers here, right?
No, that's interesting. That's interesting. Jake, did you have thoughts on why setting it there?
Groundhog Day.
Uh-oh.
You're good.
Right. Jake, do you have any input on that?
I was just going to say, no, it's like a motion activated, like whatever. One of the analogies on the story choice was, from a studio standpoint, our Jumanji movies. We made a movie with Robin Williams many years ago. We made another movie with Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart and Jack Black. It's still the familiar world of Jumanji. It's just the story forward. And so for us, if you're going to use the IP, which is really what we're about, we've got to find the iconic components of the IP that people remember. But we wanted to creatively move the story forward so it can be a new story.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really important challenge, but also part of the fun of what we're trying to do. And hopefully people will respond to it in a way that works.
Yeah. So setting it in the same place, making it the son of Phil Connors, there's a lot of baggage that comes with that, obviously. Can you say anything about the cast? Have you reached out? Can you promise any returning cast from the film, or how does this work?
It's we don't want to tell too much about it. It's there are obviously challenges with bringing cast back to a certain degree. It can be really important, but we're really focused on the new cast and the new generation that we have here, all of the kids. So there are callbacks, there are components that will certainly bring back what people remember from the original. But the real focus for us is driving forward this new cast.
Okay.
Yeah, I think to that, I think also, like, you hear the in the trailer, you're actually hearing our main character, Phil Jr., talk.
Yeah.
And this actor, Garrett, who came on to take that role. And as you can imagine, a significant, 6-hour game in which your player is talking a lot, he has a lot of lines. And I think that going back to what are the core elements of Groundhog Day that make it so charming and wonderful was finding someone at the center of the story who was an asshole, but you kind of liked, and you could believe in his sort of emotional evolution throughout the title. And I think like Garrett was amazing at helping us find that character correctly so that we had someone that was both fun and funny and dark, but like not so dark that you were just depressed through all the scenes.
Right.
I think that was something that that we really wanted to emulate for the main character.
So Garrett managed to become a charming asshole. So,
that's a delicate line.
It's who he really is.
Yeah.
It's who he really is.
And the fact that you say that you don't want to get too far into it, you don't want to spoil anything. Is it an idea that maybe 1 or 2 cast members will be coming back? Can you promise any cameos, or is it just completely right out, no connection cast-wise?
I don't want to make any promises. I mean, it's a slippery slope for us to making promises at this point. We think we have a great game and a great cast, and everything in it is really packaged to be what we want it to be. But you never know.
Never know. I take that to mean, and you don't have to react in any way. I'm assuming that means several emails and voice messages left on Bill Murray's agent's line or whatever, and you haven't heard back, but you still have your fingers crossed.
No comment.
No comment. All right. I think it'd be a tough get. You hear horror stories about him being dragged into the studio to record the Ghostbusters video game, and I think it was pulling teeth. So best of luck to you guys. I'm rooting for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So trying to understand how the actual game works. You talk about like, okay, he's an asshole, but then he gets more generous. Obviously, becomes enlightened, the whole thing. I mean, are you stuck in that role? Can we start out the game and just get out of the loop day one because we're so generous?
I would tell you that you should be actually an angel to achieve that. Right now, I think it's physically impossible because in order, again, there's no traditional puzzles in the game in the sense that I need to find a key or whatever. But remember that you need to become selfless by helping people, and that means that their attitude towards you needs to change. So yeah, even if you know what's going to happen, people are not going to believe you. So it's not as easy as it seems. I mean, obviously, in the movie, you could see all the loops, and the last loop for Phil Connors was like, yeah, it's the perfect day for me. That took a lot to the fore. So I could tell you that no, you are not going to be able to get out of this in one look, I'm afraid.
Yeah. I think, we're playing with the idea that the player is evolving as the player sort of learns more about the world that they're in. Mm-hmm. And so they can't, I don't know if this is directly what your question is. Yeah, they can't win the game on the first playthrough.
Right. How much of a sandbox is it though? I mean, can we still do whatever we want? Do you encourage that?
Sorry, there's a phone ringing.
All right, Ethan will answer the other line. That's fine.
Yeah,
I think it's IGN calling.
Looking after us. The thing is, there's one point in the game, and again, I don't want to spoil anything, where Phil Connors is aware that so how my dad got out of this? Oh, helping people. So okay, so I help others. I'm out of this, right? It doesn't work like that. Right. So even if you are trying to help people out of selfish reasons because you want to get rid of the time loop, it's not so easy. In fact, as Ethan mentioned, it's more like an inner journey on how you transform yourself.
Right.
It's not just about helping others. So this is some of the philosophical discussions we have with Joshua and Danny Rubin.
That's super fun.
It's like what it means to the perfect day. I mean, when you start the Groundhog Day, like Father, Like Son, is the worst day ever for Phil Connors Jr.
Yeah.
How do you transform that into the best day ever? Because the worst day ever can be the best day ever. It's up to you. It's up to you. How is your point of view? How is your attitude? How others see you? So you will discover this as you explore deeper and deeper layers of what this little town and its inhabitants have to offer. Yeah.
So how much of a sandbox is it, though? I mean, are you going to be locked into doing these things, or can I just go into the game and just kill myself 300 times?
Jake, can you kill yourself 100 times?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that we were aware is that we don't want this to be a suicide simulator.
Interesting.
I mean, obviously there's dark humor in the game, but we don't want it to make it green out of making it green. So I'm not going to say that there are not potentially fatal situations in the game, but just killing yourself is not going to solve anything. In fact, that's probably going to depress the players. In the end of the day, a time loop is not about repetition. It's about the variation, how these little subtle changes are becoming this day into something else.
So it is.
You start again and again. I don't want to spoil anything because it's too soon.
Right.
Maybe this game is literally terrible, horrible. It's hell on earth. Maybe by anticipating the course of events, maybe I can do something to prevent, even if it's for selfish reasons, something. And now this opens new possibilities. So it's not like a sandbox game in the sense of Red Dead Redemption or GTA.
Right.
No, we are not going that way. It's more like what happens when the narrative is non-linear? What happens when the narrative is literally dependent on my actions as a player?
So
right?
Is it a little bit like an immersive theater experience then, where you're just figuring out like, okay, I know this person needs help. I'm seeing this homeless person die on the sidewalk this time, but in order to do that, I need to convince this person in the soup kitchen to give me the food. And it's just kind of like those types of soft puzzles and just being in the right place at the right time.
It could be even something deeper, like maybe, that food is going to kill one person because this is not happening, okay, but it's an example. Maybe that food is going to kill you because you are going to suffer a heart attack, and it's like, don't eat the donut. It's going to kill yourself. It's like, come on, only one. It's like, yeah, but it's going to kill you. So it's more like, again, as I said, it's about knowing what's the motivation, what are the goals, what are the dreams, what are the fears of each person. So it's not knowing about, I don't know, this guy is a sailor or maybe this is an accountant or whatever. It's more like, what is your meaning? I mean, what is the meaning of life for you? What are your fears? Like, for example, we know Ned Ryerson from the movie, but do you really know Ned?
No one's ever asked that before.
Do you
really want to know?
Do you
This
really
is
know that?
So like in starting the game, you'll go and have like dialogue trees and just have like long conversations with Ned Ryerson, understand what makes him tick, stuff like that.
It's not like your traditional RPG in the sense that there are lots of dialogue trees and lots of conversations that you cannot skip. It doesn't work like that. In fact, maybe someone is talking to you and you're ignoring that person because you are so tired of listening to that person saying good morning every morning that you are just skipping that part.
Right.
Not answering a character, that's also an answer for the NPC. So it's more like AI driven in the sense that being an asshole, throwing you a stuff while you are talking to me, ignoring you, that's also choices in the dialogues. So no, it's not about exploring all the options and see what happens. It's a little bit more physical than that. It's about me being inside the story. At the same time, I'm supposed to be an actor. I can be a very bad actor. I can be a good actor. I can create my own script.
Gotcha. Okay, so you don't want it to be a suicide simulator. Other stuff. Let's see. Is there sex in the game?
Spoilers.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
I will say it's a dark comedy, and we're looking for probably an M for mature rating is what we're expecting.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay, for what kind of stuff?
I think language, situations, edginess. What else, Ethan?
Well, I don't know. Did we talk to me about James Ciliano from Rick and Morty's writer team? Was a huge piece of consulting on the narrative in the beginning.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes even too far for us, but really brought a modern, dark sense of humor to everything that was really fun. And I think we learned early on that the vulgarity and the grittiness of what was there was the right direction to go with it instead of trying to make it a more all ages comedy.
Yeah, I can only say two things about this. One is thanks to James Siciliano, I discovered the worst words in the English language, thanks to him. So that's something. Second, I remember being in the writers' room in Culver City, and it's like, whoa, with the writers. I mean, they are very, very talented, also very edgy. And it's like, we cannot I mean, we cannot say that in a video. And I'm going to Jake, and he's like, Jake, we're going to cut this because it's too much. And he's like, no, don't cut it. Go farther. So yeah.
Okay.
You can expect pretty adult stuff in the game.
Can you learn skills in the game? I don't know if it's going to be like a Guitar Hero like mini game or something, but it's like, am I going to just be able to get better at things like a piano?
You can get better at doing stuff. Some things are even unthoughtable for the human mind. But yes, of course. That's something that we wanted to try because it's like, again, if I were trapped in this game and it's just some stupid mini game, can I become the best player in the world? Can I do that? And what are the consequences of that? So yes, obviously yes. The answer
so it is
yes.
mini games, and does it get like easier to represent your skill getting better, or is it really just like, hey, here's the mini game. If you want to play it every day, you will be good at it by the end?
One thing we didn't want to do is stupid mini games for the sake of stupid mini games. If you are going to play an instrument, you will play the instrument for real, and you need to actually get the skills to play it for real.
What does that mean?
I don't know, you want to play the piano, for example, it's not going to be some kind of a random mini game where we are just using the piano as an excuse or context. It's like, it requires you to play the piano and understand music.
Understand music. That's interesting. Okay, the reset, is it on a timer for each day?
Obviously, the each day has a limit because that's how time and space work in the multiverse. So yeah, of course, you are going to restart the game. Every day at 6 a.m. you will wake up and you will have time until midnight, more or less.
Okay, so there is a clock running the entire time of the game. At a certain point, it'll just.
You should mention the phone too, Ethan.
Yeah, well, two things. I think one is that because the stories go, your path into stories go into different directions. Mm-hmm. Different days can be longer from a gameplay perspective. Yep. But the idea is that you're going through a day to night cycle, not in a you're not playing the game for exactly 12 minutes and then it resets.
Okay.
Like it's more of like playing through those moments of the day. The other thing too, and in that we did a lot of early thought about how does the player want to navigate this in an end game scenario, or so once someone's like gotten deeper into the story and really wants to try to figure things out. Can we force them to we wanted to stay away from the suicide simulator of like, okay, well, I need to end this scene, so I'm just going to put my hand into a toaster.
Right.
We just felt like that, although funny at first, like after a while, it was just going to be kind of the main point of the game. And so we ended up doing a lot of interesting stuff with UI on a phone that you have. So there's no HUD in the game, but you can pull out a phone at one point, and you're a vlogger in the phone. So like you're very obsessed with yourself and obsessed with your phone. And so we built UI in there that helps you navigate in sort of a unique, I don't want to say too much about it, but like in sort of a clever way so that you can skip through things or go back or reset things via your phone. So that you're not forced to play throughout a day if you realize you made a mistake or want to try something a different time.
That sounds bizarre.
I remember we mentioned earlier that this is not a sandbox. So one thing that we realized from a design perspective very early is like, if I need to be aware of everything in time and space, like I need to be in next corner at 12 a.m. and now I need to rush to Gobbler's Knob. That was pretty stressful. And we wanted people to actually enjoy and explore the possibilities of each scene. So right now, the format is more like movie-like or cinematic in the sense that we have proper scenes and sets. So there is obviously those scenes happen in real time. So it's not like a point-and-click adventure where everyone is going to wait for you to do something. That's not how it works. If I'm not doing something, it's actually doing something in Groundhog Day.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that I need to rush and I need to walk down the street all the time to get to Gobbler's Knob because that's not fun.
Right.
So that's why the phone.
The phone, you can jump around a little bit. That's interesting. Is there a song every time when you wake up?
Yep.
Is it licensed?
Is it what?
Is it licensed? Can you say what the song is?
It's licensed.
And the song is?
People will be very happy.
Great.
Put it that way.
Okay, please tell me it's the song from Russian Doll, the Gotta Get Up song. Have you guys watched Russian Doll?
It's part of the Sony catalog.
Maybe it's like DLC you can get in there. Are you guys watching Russian Doll? Have you seen that on Netflix yet?
Yes, it's amazing. We love it. I mean, all this stuff that plays into this idea, Groundhog Day is the progenitor of all these ideas. So
right.
We are honored that Netflix is doing Russian Doll, and we love that they're doing it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm really happy you guys are making this. I'm happy that those conversations somehow got through the system and that a new Groundhog Day experience is being released. It's just bizarre. So my hat's off to you guys.
Thanks.
We love bizarre stuff. We hope everybody will be happy with it too.
Yeah. Is it always going to be exclusive to VR?
Not necessarily.
For now.
That's our focus on it right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then is it PSVR exclusive for a window, or what can you say about that?
All platforms.
It's multi-platform.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
And sometime in 2019?
Yes.
Sooner than later?
No, 2019.
Okay, at some point in 2019.
Yeah.
I couldn't help. Because it's Hollywood, I feel like I have to do a couple pitches. Because like looking through Sony's catalog, there's a lot of other opportunities for VR games for you guys. And I don't know.
Tell us.
I don't know what you've really thought about, Jake.
What do your fans want?
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak on behalf of all fans because I have 4 choices here. Ready? So,
I'm writing this down, by the way.
Please do. Okay, he's got a giant pen. Okay, so rhythm games in VR. Huge. Anything musical, anything with dancing, movement, it's really great. Dances with Wolves VR. You play as the wolf, dancing with Kevin Costner. What's better than that?
It's a good idea.
It's a good idea, yeah.
Okay, great. I don't see Jake's hand moving. I don't think he wrote that one down.
Yeah, no, I got it on
Okay,
here. Look at that.
great.
See that scribble?
Okay, here's what it is. You know what else is big? Like flying games, any sort of like cockpit games. Huge in VR. It's just a natural experience. So the ultimate flight/swimming experience, you take the opening scene from Look Who's Talking, you put that in VR. What's better than that?
You're joking, but the reality is I think a lot of people would love to do that. They would actually love to be there with a talking baby with, whatever it is.
Right. It'd be a little...
I know someone working on that game, actually.
Yeah. I think we proposed the flying sections of Lawrence of Arabia once.
We talked about Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh, really?
A lot of sand in VR. People love sand in their headsets.
It looks so good.
Sand's big.
It's huge.
All right, keep going.
Okay, here's what we got.
Give us the best one.
Okay, so if you want to make some money, you got to go for the big IPs that Sony Pictures owns, right? At this point? Okay, you might recall 1997's 6th highest grossing film of all time, right for VR, As Good as It Gets VR.
Yeah.
You play as the dog. You go down to shoot in the beginning. Everything's from the dog's perspective. Jack Nicholson can be there. I'm sure he's easier to get than Bill Murray. What do you think?
I think we should make that pitch. I think we could do it. I think we could come up with some crazy stuff with that. That's fantastic.
Okay, great. And then the last one, Hook VR. And it's just like an MMO experience where you're just trying to convince everybody in a social situation that Hook actually was a good film and that everybody's mistaken.
Well,
Hook was great.
Thieves is doing pretty well right now, so it seems like pirates are hot.
Yeah. Hook, just get that soundtrack. It could be just a black screen and just listening to the soundtrack. I would buy Hook VR.
Maybe we could just do some DLC with Rare.
Oh, yeah. That naturally works out. Thanks so much for taking the time here, guys. Anything else you want to say about the project?
We love you.
Yeah, big fans of the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh,
big
that's
fans.
so sweet.
We love the project. Is great. It's a great team. We're excited for people to see it. It's different. It's unique. That's what we're all about. So hopefully people will really like it when we get close to launching.
Yeah, we're really excited. Definitely keep us in the loop. That was just a clip from a larger show called The Game Informer Show. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, or GameInformer.com. We take the fun opportunities and exclusive information from Game Informer magazine and boil it into a show that airs every Thursday with exclusive cover story information, developer interviews, a lot of fun stuff. So come love games with us.